Antibiotic resistance is really one of the most important threats to humanity at the moment, recognized by the World Health Organization as a top 10 threat to humanity. And the problem there is that a lot of bacteria become resistant to commonly used antibiotics. And this is spreading, across the globe, and some infections become increasingly hard to treat, and therefore even routine interventions in hospital may become increasingly difficult to carry out, and any infection may rapidly become untreatable.
Right from the beginning, when antibiotics were first discovered, they started seeing resistance really quite quickly, but it's only in the last sort of couple of decades that it's become a massive global phenomenon, and we're seeing a lot of resistant strains of particular types of bacteria that have just spread across the entire world and are picking up a lot of different resistance genes, so they're becoming impossible to treat. So it's kind of an existential threat to modern medicine, I would say.
In reality, all the bacteria will develop resistance at some point to specific antibiotics, but we are mainly focusing on escape pathogens, and when we say escape pathogens, we mean Enterococcus, Staphylococcus, Klebsiella, Pseudomonas, Enterobacter, and Acinetobacter as well. These specific escape pathogens, there are multiple studies where it has been shown that they develop extreme resistance to antibiotics, and they can result in millions of deaths per year.
So phages literally mean eaters. So they're viruses that specifically kill bacteria. So they have evolved as part of the natural bacterial world, and all bacteria have these natural enemies. They're very specific, so each bacteria will have certain subsets of phages which will kill them. They won't kill other bacteria, they won't kill our human cells. So in a nutshell, phages are viruses that specifically infect and kill bacteria.
Phage therapy is the application of these specific viruses that kill bacteria to treat bacterial infections. Bacterial infections are increasing to become a problem due to the increased incidence of antimicrobial resistance in many of the infections that we see day to day. The power of phages is when they are used in combination with antibiotics. If we think about a bacteria that is resistant to an antibiotic, when it encounters a phage, that will then lead to a process which then will become also increasingly resistant to the phage. However, in that process, these bacteria normally become sensitive to these antibiotics, creating a synergetic component, a potency to treat these bacterial infections.
Phage therapy is not new. Multiple countries like Georgia, Russia, Poland, they have been using phage therapy for years. And this is now a current solution also for more the Western civilization countries, and this is because of the problem of antimicrobial resistance.
So some of the advantages are that phages are self-amplifying. They will find their host and then locally create a very high concentration of offspring virus particles that can then infect other bacteria in that same environment. They are also able to evolve, so if a bacterium evolves resistance to phage, it may be possible for phages to evolve in return and overcome those resistances, so we can get coevolution between the bacteria and the phage, something that is impossible when you add a chemical. The chemical will not have that capacity to adapt to the evolution of antibiotic resistance, for example.
One of the key things that will control the success of bacteriophage therapy is knowing that you have exactly the right bacteriophages for your bacteria. So the first part of treatment is going to be about culturing that bacteria wherever it's causing infection, and behind the scenes, the phage researchers will test to make sure the phages kill those bacteria. Depending on where the infection is, the phages will be delivered. For example, for a stomach infection or a gut infection, the phages can be given in terms of a drink or encapsulated as like a pill. So in some ways, the giving of the phage treatment may not differ too much from being given any other antimicrobial. In many cases so far with case studies, the
treatment has shown to be very safe, but I think much more research is needed in that area to understand what the potential side effects can be of phage administration, and therefore we need more clinical trials in order to better understand how these phages interact with various parts of the human body, and including understanding the side effects.
Phage therapy is generally not available in the UK because there are no licensed products that can be accessed by doctors. So to have a product that's available through mainstream healthcare, you have to have done clinical trials. And there are very few clinical trials that have been done on bacteriophages. And this is largely because they were seen as being unnecessary. They're very complicated compared to using a straightforward antibiotic. So this has limited the amount of clinical trial work. And it's also been complicated by the fact that they're difficult to produce. There are no producers that can produce GMP, so good manufacturing practice, bacteriophages in the UK. And there are also the ambiguity in terms of the regulatory system.
Phage therapy is important because we don't have enough treatments at the moment to treat antimicrobial resistance. So there are some people who have infections over and over again, or who have the most complicated infections in hospital, who can't be treated, where we don't have enough antibiotics, and phages might help us deal with that. So at the moment we're working towards being able to do a clinical trial here in Southampton where we work with the public and researchers and get consent from people with the most resistant antibiotic infections to be able to use phages to treat them, or to see if phage treatment works, and then to monitor both the effect of phages on their resistant bacteria and also the safety of that phage therapy.